Mia's life changed forever on the day she lost the person she loved most. Before leaving for work that morning, she gently cared for her sick mother, reassuring her not to worry despite how difficult their lives had become. Neither of them realized it would be their final goodbye. Soon afterward, Mia received the heartbreaking news that her mother had passed away on the day of the first snowfall, leaving her completely alone. After saying her farewell, Mia wrote a letter to her late mother, promising to stay strong as she stepped into an unfamiliar future. With nowhere else to go, she was taken in by the wealthy Kunokura family, where she expected nothing but rejection. Because she was her father's illegitimate daughter, Mia convinced herself that Lady Teru Kunokura and her two daughters would despise her the moment she arrived. She silently accepted whatever cruel treatment awaited her. As soon as Mia entered the mansion, the sisters gasped at her appearance. Her clothes were filthy, her face was covered in dirt, and her hair was completely unkempt. Hearing their shocked reactions, Mia believed her fears had come true. She thought they saw her as nothing more than unwanted garbage and immediately apologized before anyone could even scold her. But to Mia's surprise, the sisters weren't disgusted by her. They were upset that her father had allowed her to live in such terrible conditions. Without wasting a second, they brought her inside, cleaned her up, and immediately began arguing over how to make her look beautiful. One wanted to curl her hair, while the other insisted a different hairstyle would suit her better. Their playful arguments soon turned into a debate over which outfit she should wear, until Lady Teru stepped in and reminded them to calm down. Watching everything unfold, Mia became even more nervous. If the sisters panicked this much over something so small, she couldn't imagine how frightening Lady Teru herself must be. When the head of the family finally mentioned Mia's room, she casually said there was still space in the cellar. Mia immediately accepted it, believing she should simply be grateful to have a roof over her head. But before she could lose hope, Lady Teru revealed that the cellar was actually for moving her late father's books. His old study would be cleaned and turned into Mia's very own bedroom. The sisters instantly began making plans, excitedly talking about decorating the room, showing her the garden, and even taking her shopping once everything was finished. For the first time since arriving, Mia realized this family wasn't treating her like an unwanted burden at all. They were genuinely welcoming her into their home. After deciding that Mia would stay in her late father's study, the entire family immediately got to work preparing the room. Seeing everyone helping together, Mia mistakenly assumed they were only cleaning because they had no choice. She even believed Lady Marika probably hated the idea of preparing a room for an illegitimate child like her. But within moments, her misunderstanding disappeared. The sisters enthusiastically divided the work between themselves with surprising teamwork. One cleaned from the left, the other started from the right, while Mia was given the simple task of dusting the areas they had already finished. Their coordination was so perfect that Mia could only watch in amazement. It was obvious this family had done this countless times before. Wanting to repay their kindness, Mia quietly threw herself into the work as well. While cleaning the bookshelves, one of the sisters noticed that Mia had never read many of the books filling the room. Curious, she asked whether Mia enjoyed reading. Embarrassed, Mia admitted that she could barely read or write. Growing up in a merchant's household, she had spent nearly every day carrying heavy cargo instead of attending school. Education had simply never been part of her life. Instead of looking down on her, the sisters reacted with excitement. To them, it meant Mia would get to experience all of these wonderful stories for the very first time. Marika immediately volunteered to teach her how to read, while Arisa rushed over with one of her favorite adventure novels. Before long, the two sisters were arguing once again. Marika criticized Arisa's books for being full of reckless heroes and endless explosions, while Arisa fired back by making fun of Marika's gloomy mystery novels where the main character always seemed to die. Watching the sisters bicker over something so harmless completely caught Mia off guard. She had expected criticism for being uneducated, but instead, they were competing over who would teach her first. As the conversation settled down, the sisters gently asked why she had never been able to attend school. Mia quietly explained that she had worked almost every day since childhood, leaving her no opportunity to study. Ashamed of her lack of education, She apologized once again, believing someone like her would only disgrace the respected Kunokura family. But instead of agreeing with her, the sisters smiled warmly. Marika simply laughed and declared that having such an inexperienced little sister only meant she would have to take good care of her from now on. Arisa quickly agreed, telling Mia not to be afraid to rely on them whenever she needed help. For the first time in years, Mia realized that nobody was judging her for what she couldn't do. Instead, they were eager to help her learn everything she had missed growing up. Without realizing it, the fear she had carried into the mansion was slowly beginning to disappear. As the three of them continued cleaning the room together, an unexpected accident interrupted the peaceful atmosphere. While handling one of the old books, Mia accidentally cut her finger. Before she even realized what had happened, Marika immediately rushed over and wrapped the wound with her own handkerchief to stop the bleeding. The moment Mia looked at the cloth, her face turned pale. She repeatedly apologized, explaining that the handkerchief looked so old because it had once belonged to her late mother. It was one of the few memories she still had of her, yet without thinking twice, she had used it to help someone else. Hearing that left both sisters speechless. To them, the handkerchief wasn't just an old piece of fabric. It was a precious keepsake that carried Mia's memories of her mother. They couldn't understand why she would give away something so important so casually. Trying to reassure them, Mia forced a smile and claimed she had already planned to replace it anyway. If it had helped Lady Marika, then she believed it had served its purpose. But the sisters immediately saw through her words. They knew she was only pretending not to care because she didn't want to trouble anyone. Just then, Lady Teru walked into the room after hearing the commotion. After listening to the situation, she gently reminded Mia that holding on to memories wasn't something she should ever feel guilty about. Loving the family standing in front of her didn't mean she had to let go of the memories of the mother who had raised her. She could treasure both. Instead of throwing the handkerchief away, Lady Teru carefully examined the damaged fabric before smiling with confidence. While the bloodstain could be removed, the worn cloth itself needed repairing. So she decided to strengthen it with beautiful decorative embroidery, turning the old keepsake into something even more precious than before. When the handkerchief was finally finished, Mia could hardly believe her eyes. What she thought had been ruined had become even more beautiful than before. Overwhelmed with gratitude, she sincerely thanked Lady Teru for preserving one of the last memories she had of her mother. Watching the embroidery sparked another burst of excitement between the sisters. Marika immediately begged her mother to teach her the same sewing technique, but Lady Teru simply smiled and told her to master the basics first before attempting something more advanced. With the emotional moment behind them, everyone returned to preparing Mia's room. Once everything was cleaned and organized, the room looked completely different. It was spacious, bright, and far more beautiful than anything Mia had ever imagined living in. Although the room was spotless, Lady Teru noticed the air still felt dusty. Wanting everything to be perfect, she decided to leave the windows open to air it out overnight. That meant Mia would spend her first night in the guest room instead. Even such a small act of consideration deeply touched Mia. After everything she had been through, she never expected complete strangers to care so much about her comfort. That night, Mia finally stepped into the guest room prepared for her. The soft bed and warm blanket were luxuries she had never experienced before. She thought she would fall asleep the moment she lay down, but no matter how hard she tried, sleep simply wouldn't come. The unfamiliar comfort only reminded her of the life she had left behind. Memories of the tiny attic she once shared with her mother slowly filled her mind. She could still remember the cold nights when rats ran across the floor and the freezing winds slipped through the broken walls. Even though their home had been small and worn down, being beside her mother had always made it feel warm. Unable to stop thinking about the past, Mia quietly got out of bed. Hoping a short walk would help clear her mind, she decided to look for the bathroom. But the Kunokura mansion was far larger than anything she had ever seen before. Before long, she completely lost her sense of direction. Just as panic started to set in, familiar voices called out to her. Marika and Arisa had expected this to happen all along. Knowing Mia wasn't used to such a huge mansion, they had already begun searching for her before she even realized she was lost. The sisters gently wrapped a warm coat around her shoulders and escorted her through the dark hallway. Although they teased each other about who was actually afraid of the dark, both of them stayed beside Mia the entire time, making sure she never felt alone. After showing her the bathroom, they encouraged her to get some rest since everyone would have to wake up early the next morning. Mia wanted to tell them the truth, that she wasn't scared of the mansion, but simply too nervous to sleep, but the words refused to come out. She convinced herself that after everything they had already done for her, she had no right to ask for even more. As the sisters prepared to leave, Mia remained standing there in silence. Her hesitation immediately caught their attention. Realizing she was forcing herself to hide her feelings again, Marika sighed and told her there was no point pretending everything was fine. If she didn't want to be alone, she should simply say so. There was nothing wrong with relying on family. Instead of returning to bed, the sisters decided to stay awake with her. They even brought a small plate of biscuits so the three of them could sit together and chat until Mia finally felt sleepy. Little by little, the heavy feeling in Mia's heart began to disappear. For the first time since arriving at the mansion, she laughed naturally without worrying about being judged. As she thanked them once again, she instinctively called them "my ladies." The sisters immediately stopped her. They didn't want to be treated like distant nobles anymore. They wanted Mia to see them as real family. When Mia shyly called them Sister Ari and Sister Mari, both girls couldn't hide their excitement. Hearing those simple words made all of their efforts feel worthwhile. But just as the touching moment settled in, Lady Teru suddenly appeared out of nowhere, surprising all three girls. The sisters couldn't understand how she had arrived so quietly until Lady Teru revealed that secret passageways connected every room in the mansion, allowing her to reach her children whenever they needed her. For Mia, the warmth of this family continued to exceed every expectation she had carried into the mansion. She had arrived believing she would be treated as an outsider, yet with every passing moment, she felt herself becoming part of a family she had never imagined she could have. Although Mia had slowly grown closer to the Kunokura family, there was still one thing she couldn't bring herself to do. Looking at Lady Teru, she nervously tried to call her "my lady mother," believing it was the most respectful way to address the woman who had welcomed her into the family. But Lady Teru immediately stopped her. She gently reminded Mia that no one could ever replace the mother who had raised her. Those precious memories deserved to be treasured forever, and there was no reason for Mia to force herself to forget them. After a brief pause, Lady Teru smiled warmly and offered her another choice. "If you'd like, you can simply call me Mommy." The unexpected kindness left Mia speechless. For a moment, she could only stare in disbelief before quietly repeating the word, almost as if she was afraid it wasn't real. The following morning, Mia woke up earlier than everyone else. Wanting to repay the family's kindness, she quietly began cleaning the mansion before anyone else had even left their rooms. She believed that if she worked hard enough, she might finally become worthy of staying there. However, her peaceful morning was interrupted by an unexpected visitor. Her grandmother had come to the Kunokura estate. The moment Mia saw her, she was completely caught off guard. She never imagined her grandmother would come looking for her after everything that had happened. Without wasting any time, the elderly woman asked Mia to return home with her. Lady Teru calmly stepped forward and asked her to explain why she had suddenly changed her mind. After taking a deep breath, Mia's grandmother admitted that after losing her daughter, she had been overwhelmed by grief and couldn't think clearly. But once she regained her composure, she realized Mia was the only family her daughter had left behind. She believed it was her responsibility to bring her granddaughter back. At the same time, she also confessed something else. She didn't believe a girl of Mia's background could truly fit into such a prestigious household. In her eyes, Mia's lack of education and noble upbringing would only bring trouble to the Kunokura family. Hearing those words, Mia quietly lowered her head. Deep inside, she had always feared the exact same thing. She believed that someone as inexperienced as herself would eventually become a burden to everyone around her. If staying meant causing problems for the sisters who had treated her so kindly, perhaps leaving really was the right choice. Before Mia could continue blaming herself, Lady Teru gently interrupted. Looking directly at Mia, she pointed out exactly what the girl was thinking. She knew Mia was about to sacrifice her own happiness simply because she believed she would inconvenience everyone else. Lady Teru then reminded her of something far more important. Families naturally help one another. Living together meant sharing both joys and burdens, regardless of blood relations. What truly mattered wasn't whether someone caused trouble, but whether they were someone you genuinely wanted beside you. Those simple words instantly reached Mia's heart. For the first time, someone had told her that being loved wasn't something she needed to earn. Just as Mia began doubting whether she truly belonged in the Kunokura family, Lady Teru calmly turned her attention toward Lady Yasu. Although the elderly woman claimed she only wanted to take Mia home, Lady Teru couldn't ignore the way she had carefully chosen her words. She quietly asked if there was another reason behind her sudden visit. The question immediately caught Lady Yasu off guard. Lady Teru then revealed what she had already figured out. She suspected that Mia wasn't being taken home out of love at all. Instead, Lady Yasu had likely planned to place her under a fixed-term labor contract with a merchant family in exchange for an advance payment. The accusation left the room in complete silence. Unable to deny it any longer, Lady Yasu hesitated before lowering her head. She realized there was no point making excuses. With everything exposed, she quietly gave up on taking Mia away. Before leaving, however, she turned back to her granddaughter one last time. Even though the Kunokura family had accepted Mia with open arms, Lady Yasu gently reminded her that not everyone in such a large family would necessarily welcome her in the future. If life ever became too painful, Mia would always have a place to return to. With those final words, Lady Yasu quietly left the mansion. After watching her grandmother disappear, Mia turned toward Lady Teru and the two sisters. Overwhelmed with gratitude, she struggled to decide what she should say first. She wondered whether she should apologize for worrying everyone, thank them for protecting her, or simply greet them properly. Before she could make up her mind, the sisters burst into laughter. They jokingly scolded her for forgetting the most basic thing of all. She hadn't even said good morning yet. They also admitted that after discovering her room empty that morning, they had searched almost the entire mansion looking for her. Their playful argument quickly returned as they teased each other over their messy appearances, filling the house with laughter once again. Watching the cheerful family interact so naturally, Mia could only smile. The heavy burden she had carried since arriving was finally beginning to disappear. Lady Teru gently reminded everyone that today wasn't a special occasion. It was simply another ordinary day, so there was no need to become overly excited. But the sisters refused to let such an important moment pass unnoticed. Determined to celebrate Mia's arrival properly, they announced that they would be holding a welcome party that evening. After all, they believed there was no such thing as too many happy gatherings when it came to family. As preparations for the celebration began, Mia quietly sat down to write another letter to her late mother.